The Science Behind Caramel by Bethany Pasquiwa. What is caramel and what are the main ingredients for making caramel? Caramel is sugar that has been cooked until it browns. The main ingredients for making caramel is brown sugar, half and half cream, butter, salt, and vanilla extract. What are the two methods for making caramel? One method is the dry method. The dry method involves heating sugar in a pan until it liquefies and browns. Another method is the wet method. The wet method is the method of making caramel that calls for moistening the sugar in a pan with a little bit of water. What is the science behind caramel? The science behind caramel is a chemical reaction as heat is added to the main ingredient, sugar. Heat changes the color and consistency of caramel. As you can see, in order to make caramel, a chemical reaction occurs as one substance changes to another substance. So, who has tried caramel? You could have tried caramel that was a solid or caramel sauce that was dunked in apples or desserts. First, I'll explain the process of caramelization or how caramel is made. Next, I'll explain the Maillard reaction. Then I will explain the tricky things that may happen when making caramel. The process of caramelization. Caramelization begins around 320 degrees Fahrenheit, and the color changes to light pale caramel brown. At 355 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit, the caramel progresses to medium brown. When cooled, it will be hard but no shattering brittle. When heated to 365 to 380 degrees Fahrenheit, the caramel appears dark brown and will cool to a softer, stickier texture. At this temperature, cream, butter, and vanilla are often stirred into the caramel to stop browning and create caramel sauces and candies. At the upper end of this temperature range, the caramel continues to darken quickly until it reaches at about 410 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, it's known as black caramel, which is less sweet and more bitter tasting. Maillard reaction. Another way to form a brown caramel without heating sugar in high temperatures is the Maillard reaction. During this reaction, molecules with the brown color are formed as well. However, instead of sugar, this reaction also requires protein to occur. Since butter, milk, and cream contain these proteins, they can be added to initiate the Maillard reaction. What can go wrong with making caramel? The biggest drawback to the wet method is that the sugar tends to recrystallize more easily than it does with the dry method. When the sugar and water boil, sugar syrup may splash into the wall of the pot, where it evaporates quickly and forms back into sugar crystals. If even one of these crystals fall back into the syrup, it can see a chemical reaction, turning the clear syrup grainy. Another thing that can go wrong with making caramel is, once sugar syrup is heated enough to brown, more than 80% of the water in the syrup has evaporated. After that, the boiling point rises at such a rapid rate that it can easily overshoot the desired temperature range and burn. In conclusion, the science behind caramel is the chemical reaction between heat and sugar. The Maillard reaction is the reaction between sugar with proteins, and that things can happen when making caramel, such as making the caramel grainy or burnt. This is my bibliography, and I just want to thank you for listening.